All right, let's get this show on the road. Hi, my name is Brendan, and this is Accidental Origin, your weekly writing web show, now daily for this week only. Props, Stevie. It's probably just you. Wouldn't surprise me. I usually start off with nobody, and then like half an hour in, I pick up like 6-7 people. I did have actually, you're a great person to talk about this with. I had a question. Exactly. Intro is always necessary. Yeah, I was gonna ask you. Ooh, I'm not gonna do this scene. I'm gonna skip that. Yeah, this is the scene I want to do. Why did you start streaming? Oh right, I want my project targets. I've been doing pretty well. I wrote like, yeah. Why did you start streaming? but you can't say why. Yeah, cause see, like that's the question I'm kind of asking myself right now. Cause I don't want to stop streaming, but I don't know why I'm streaming either. Like, what am I trying to get out of it? And I've talked over with Ronnie a few times, and I want conversations about art. I want to push people. I want to promote creativity. And those are all good things. And that's the thing. I do have fun streaming. Like, I like this atmosphere. I'm able to be productive in it. I like doing the educational stuff. I'm thinking it's not an everyday thing. I don't think it should be an everyday thing. It's too much theory, too much whatever. But I think maybe one episode a month or something. Do a little bit more of an educational thing. I do want to publish. I don't know about self-publish. I'm on the fence about self-publishing at the moment professionally. Not to say that I don't think people should do it. It's just I don't know if that's the thing for me. I'm of the opinion of a few authors where I would like to get my first one or two things published through someone else and then start self-publishing. Build a bit of a name, get some recognition in the community. But I agree with you. It's a tough business. Yeah, right? Like, and that's the thing, is I don't know if I want to self-publish. And, like, I don't spend a ton of time on Twitter or anything like that. And I don't even advertise all that much. That being said, I mean, I've had some steady growth. It's counting today. I've done this for 11 weeks? 12 weeks? I think this will be week number 12, like this Sunday coming up. So that's like 3 months steady. Plus a month I spent prepping it. Yeah. I mean, yeah, totally. I just, playing around with format, playing around with thoughts, motivation. And I realized that I have not gone to my main stream yet. Yeah, exactly, Stevie. We're basically the same person. I'm sorry if I made you feel uncomfortable the other day, by the way. That was not my intention when I made that comment about calling me out. I'm also sorry I missed your comment about it. Well, that's the impression Drawny gave me because I didn't actually hear the comment itself. So maybe that's not true. Oh, yes. Yesterday about being aware of calling me out randomly. We got there. We got there. Okay. That's good. I'm glad you want to talk to me though. It means that I say something of value. And I ordered my Vive and I'm super excited. This is a family friendly stream. Not like, well, family friendly. It's like 14A. And yeah, I'm really excited. If it comes by Monday, I already have plans to play pool and mini golf with my friend online. In VR. It's gonna be awesome. I'm so excited. And I'm 10 minutes in and I haven't written a word. What else is new? Project keywords. Here we go. Oh, and I need to add Zodnik. You've spent a lot more time with writers than I have, Stevie. Or at least probably asked this question more than I have. What's the average words per day of your writer friends? Well, I assume you're older than me, and you did a degree with writers. Well, I did a degree with writers, but I don't talk to them very much anymore. And we were also screenwriters, so it was different. I know it's variable. I was just wondering if you had a ballpark. Because right now I'm pretty happy with my words per day, but I've written almost like I said, like I'm at 1322 for this week, and I've only spent 6 hours, I think, writing. Like, I've been a super slacker after after I turn off my stream. That being said, it's vacation. I'm trying to take it fairly easily, but I want to finish dinner. I do. Oh yeah, I get that. And I don't really, like, I don't have, like, a goal per day sort of thing. I've given myself a session target for the stream, but... Yeah, no, I agree with that. I agree with that. Funnily enough, I say, like, 800 words or whatever, but it actually only comes down to about 3 words per minute, which is not a lot when you think about it. Because I like mathy nerd things too, just not the same mathy nerd things you like. I did check though. Oh my god. Oh my god. I've attempted Nano 2.5 times. I have not gotten more than 2K a day? Jesus. I'm jealous. That's a lot. I was gonna say, I've attempted Nano twice, with a third time that I tried to do 2 different collaborations in the same month and failed both. But the best I ever did was 10,000 words. The second time I tried, I did, I think, 1,000, like 1,500 or something stupid. I was just too busy. I was in high school. Like, I was just too busy. Well, you wanna brag. One of the girls I went to high school with, who's a friend of mine, who's a professional, is a professional copywriter now. She's passed Nano 7 times. With over, I think, over 100,000 on several of them. Yeah. Like, she was hardcore. I don't remember what one I wrote the second time, but the one I wrote the time I was actually successful, which was in grade 11, which would have been 2007? 2007? Yeah. I actually really like that story, and I'm going to eventually finish it. I probably have it, actually, if you want to see it. I can Discord it to you. Yeah. Oh god. Yeah. Is a .7 okay? As a zip file? I realize these are all in individual files. Where are you? There you are. Yeah, perfect. 16 chapters of basically fan fiction level noveling. Oh, thanks, Derek. I appreciate that, buddy. I'm glad to see you back streaming. I missed you that day off. Or watch the fawn sleeping form. Oh, I appreciate that. Actually, Derek, if you're gonna be around for a minute, do you mind asking a question for me? Just because I'm super curious, and I can ask you off stream if that's better. But I am curious. Why did you start streaming? Okay. That's super legit. That's super legit. I respect that a lot. That's kind of the approach that that I'm taking. I was just talking about this with Stevie, where like, you know, I do it for fun. I don't do it necessarily for professional reasons, but I do it because I want to have conversations about art, and I want to push people, and I want to promote creativity. And I'm totally just listing off the things that I said before in the exact same order in the way I said them before, but productivity is, yeah, I mean, I've been super productive this week. I'm sitting at almost 1,500 words in 3 hours, or sorry, 7 hours or so of work this week, which is pretty good for me. It's not Stevie good apparently, but it's pretty good. And yeah, I want to meet people and have conversations. Though I think I've been a little intense lately, maybe a bit in people's faces. And if so, I apologize. But Johnny makes me confront my emotions, okay? I'm sorry. Johnny is the best. I'm sad she couldn't be here today. I think she's out doing errands with her mom. Yeah, I've read a lot of things about creating a Twitch persona, about being a person you want to be on stream and all that, and I get that. But at the same time, like, I mostly just try to be as real as I can be, and I find that very releasing. I'm enjoying it. I'm enjoying streaming. I'm glad I don't do more than. I'm glad I don't do more than once a week. I mean, this week I'm doing more than once a week, but I'm also off, so I don't have to worry about going to work or anything like that. And I wish that I could do this more, where I could, if I was freelancing or doing something at home, I could do more of this stuff. But yeah, I agree with you. It can definitely be emotionally exhausting. I think it depends on the type of day you're having, what kind of mood you're in. A lot of things like that. Yeah, and I agree. I think today as much as I want to see Stevie's imaginative piece, and I really do, I think today I'm taking off from Twitch. Other than the stream, I'm not gonna watch any streams today. I need a reset filter. I've been going at it kind of hard. So I think when I'm done today, I'm gonna go watch a movie and just chill in my basement and not think about all the other things. Yeah, and I don't think I'm ever going to be the type of person who wants to stream for like 8 hours a day. Honestly, I might watch The Princess Diaries. Because I'm curious and I've never seen it, and me and Johnny were talking about it yesterday. But other than that, maybe The Revenant. I kind of want to see The Revenant. What other movies? Well, you know how I feel about chick flicks, Stevie. So, like, I don't even think it sounds surprising. The Hateful Eight is amazing. You should definitely watch The Hateful Eight. Yeah, I'm thinking I'm gonna watch The Princess Diaries. I think that's what I'm gonna watch. Yep. Thanks for thanks for answering my questions, Derek. I appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for the host as well. The Hateful Eight is awesome. And what was I gonna say? Oh, wait, one sec. Oh yeah, I've heard of that. I don't know. I don't remember what it's called. You know who knows is Sam J. Frazier, but I don't think he's here. He might be here. Yeah. Anyway, I'll show it in big here. This bad boy I picked up from Chapters a couple weeks ago. Super fascinating read. Super fascinating. It's really neat, and I actually don't even feel bad about going on tangents, because this is kind of why I like streaming in a lot of ways. It's the original screenplay, not the shooting script. Which I don't know if you've ever worked in film, but there's a big difference between the shooting script and the screenplay. Like, this is the original text before it was marked up for by producers or cinematographers or anything like that for camera shots. That being said, Tarantino, being a director and director of photography himself, tends to write camera shots into his script. So there is a little bit of that, but not as much as a shooting script would have. It's also, I find it much more important to read regular screenplays and not shooting scripts, because shooting scripts are edited to the dialogue of the movie and the scenes of the movie, whereas this has stuff that's not in the movie or that differs. Which is why it's super interesting to read a screenplay. You get that kind of like, what was this like before and after sort of thing, which is always fascinating. The foreword is actually one of the better parts of this book. The foreword by Elvis Mitchell talks about how Quentin Tarantino did The Hateful Eight as a stage play in a basically dramatic reading in LA. And he brought out like Samuel L. Jackson and what's his face,
Kurt Russell and all those guys into this one-off stage play that he did in LA, and just like who does that? Who just brings Samuel L. Jackson to a one-night play reading thing? So I've actually learned a lot. I really like it. Yeah, and I mean, I studied. I'll go back to the big one there for a sec. I studied screenwriting, right? So there's a lot of that we talk about in the courses that I took. But just like stuff like this, Quentin Tarantino's actual writing, like this is he wrote the chapter headings in the actual script. Nice, super cool. Yeah, see, I just flipped that open there and I didn't even realize this, but the opening shot from Chapter 3 is the opening shot of the movie in the actual film. Interesting. So yeah, scriptwriting is a very interesting thing. And remember when I was talking a little bit about word counts? Scriptwriters are the highest paid writers per word by far. I think in general, in terms of Hollywood numbers, it comes down to what was it, $20,000 or $40,000 per word, something like that, something stupid. In terms of Hollywood scripts, because a typical script is 90 pages, but it's 90 pages of formatted text. Which is not nearly the same thing. I have some scripts. I can open one up for you if you want to see. And this is exactly what I was talking about. Like, this is why I like streaming. Because I like having these conversations. Yes, we are in a new golden age of television. I would argue television right now is probably one of the best mediums to work in. Why are you not doing what I'm telling you to do? What the hell? That's so weird. Okay, I got it. Right? Well, so here's the thing, and it's something that people don't talk about a lot. But TV is actually much closer to, TV was much closer to what a stage play was. It was talking heads. It was dialogue as exposition. It was basically a lot closer to listening to a radio drama. You could not watch the screen, but you still know everything that's going on. That's not true anymore. TV has gotten its own language that's different from films because they don't have the budget of films. They're much higher budget than they used to be, but they're still not at the budget of film. So because of those budgetary differences, they've had to adapt in a lot of different ways how they do things. It gets really weird, right? That being said, I think the miniseries sort of idea, the thing that Netflix is promoting, the thing that BBC's been doing for a long time, has really become popular and has become very, very effective. Where they can tell a beginning, middle, and end of a story in 13 episodes, and not have to worry about necessarily doing a second season. I think I think the idea of seasons in traditional television is wrong. I think it's bad. I don't think you can tell a proper story like that. You need to have character arcs. That's the revolutionary moment of Breaking Bad. There's an actual character arc that matters. The characters aren't... It isn't all about the status quo. And I agree with you, Stevie. I think 22 episodes is too bloated. I'm a huge fan of Korean and Japanese drama, which tends to be... Well, I'm not nearly as an expert in Japanese drama. But I really like Korean drama, which are like 16 to 20 one-hour episodes. But they tell the story from beginning to end. Like, I like that style. But even to a certain extent, if you consider shows like American Horror Story, I think is the one I'm thinking of, or True Detective, where you have multiple stories having a different story once per season. Like completely new characters, completely new things. That's also something that's really big in Korea. There's a couple of things. The one that I know most prominently being drama special, where they'll do 1 to 3 parts, individual stories within a season. So it'll run for 4 to 5 months a year, and every week they'll do either a new episode, a new story, or they'll continue a 1 to 3 part story. So every 3 episodes, you're getting something new. You're getting a new, smaller, contained story, which is awesome. And I think the television landscape is also changing actors a lot. It used to be that there was TV actors and there was movie actors. That's no longer the case. And if you look at, like, I keep bringing up Korea, but I'm very familiar with Korean drama. And I think that industry is in a lot of ways doing what we're starting to do, where all the best actors in the Korean film industry, almost all of them do dramas, and some of them do films. There's a few that do only films, but they are very few and far between. That being said, the ones who do only films are really, really good, but they're few and far between. So yeah, it's one of those things where that's starting to be what we're doing, where television is a steady paycheck. Robin Williams, before he passed away, talked a lot about that, where that's the reason why he went back to TV, because it was a steady paycheck. It was guaranteed money in an economy where you couldn't make 10, 15 million doing a movie anymore. And that's something you start to see a lot more as well, is actors aren't necessarily doing AAA titles all the time. There's a lot more actors doing indie films, low budget films, art films. It's a lot of it is because there's a much smaller divide than there used to be between those types of roles. So why limit yourself? Why not do the things that are fun and interesting? Yeah? Yeah, it's crazy, right? Well, it's one of those things where, like, they don't even necessarily know if they've been renewed for a new season at that point. And I know a lot of people in the animation industry. Molten Ink, for example. Molten Ink lives in Ottawa. He lives in the same city as me. He works with people I know. Or he has worked with people I know. And there are studios that don't keep on, like, that can't afford to keep on animators when they don't have projects for them to work on. Yeah, I actually know one of the people who taught Molten Ink, Dan Goulet, who works for a studio that does Nickelodeon shorts here in town. Or they do Nickelodeon stuff, not just shorts. But yeah, there's a interesting enough, Canada is one of the world's mecca for children's programming. There's a ton of children's animation in Ottawa. And a lot of the major animation studios, other than Disney and Pixar, like the guys who do movies, like the television people, a lot of the major animation studios have offices in Toronto. But yeah, there's a ton of stuff that comes through here. There's a ton of Disney projects. Like Jake and the Neverland Pirates is all done in Ottawa. The Kratz Brothers, all that stuff's done in Ottawa. My professors of screenwriting all worked on For Better For Worse, like the adaptation of the comic strip. Things like Kevin Spencer, which not a ton of people know. Just a ton of kids programming. That's the type of industry that's in Ottawa. So yeah, Algonquin's one of the high, like a very highly rated animation program. It's like probably the top 10 in the country, and is in the top 100 worldwide. But it's fairly low down. Toronto has another one of the top rated in the top 25, and Vancouver has a couple that are also in the top 25. So there's a ton of stuff for that. Toronto specifically, in terms of the film industry, is basically they film almost as many blockbusters in Toronto as they do in LA nowadays. What's up, Michele? We were just talking about film industry and writing. Am I gonna go to TwitchCon? I cannot afford to go to TwitchCon. That's super far. I thought it was in. Is TwitchCon not in San Diego? San Diego? Is that correct? Am I wrong? Is it in Seattle? I don't think it's a worthwhile. Yeah, it's in San Diego. I don't think it's a worthwhile enough investment for me at this point in my life. I think if I'm still streaming by next year, and I plan to be still streaming by next year, that's not a big if or anything like that. That would be something I could go. I totally want to hang out with you, CD. I do. I would love that. Oh, actually, the ticket's not as bad as I thought. Oh, it's probably an off season right now. When's TwitchCon? What's the dates for it? Oh man, Michele, that's so cool. That's so cool, bro. September 30th to October 2nd. Well, if I'm going to San Diego, I'm gonna go for like 2 weeks or something. Because why would I not come back? That makes no sense. Is that round trip? That's not as bad as I thought. Not well. I mean, the price that I'm looking at right now are about $900 Canadian. That's still expensive though. Like that's pretty expensive. Maybe I'll think about it. I still have plenty of time to book that if I wanted to do it. I'd have to book vacation. Harsh McKelly, harsh. Actually, the Canadian dollar is really strong right now, if I'm not mistaken. Not as strong as it's been, but fairly strong. Yeah. 77 cents to the dollar. Yeah. How did you get that, McKelly? Like, is it just like a internship through Captain Canada? His name is Captain Canuck, okay? Ooh, harsh. Yes, I'm sorry. Stevie got me talking about the film industry, which is kind of my area of expertise, and I got going. I will actually be doing... I started doing writing, and then got distracted. Yeah, I forgot. There you go, though. Captain Canuck. It's a real thing. But yeah. Oh yeah, I was gonna show you that real quick. Drive. What the hell? Oh. Really? I got nothing? Oh, there we go. So this is what a film script looked like. This is really... I need to zoom in. Wow, can I really not zoom in? Jesus. I don't know if you can see that at all. Man, that's so cool. We did something like that in my college program, where we got to pitch to a bunch of studios, which is a super cool experience. Like really awesome. I pitched my sci-fi epic to a guy, the guy who made Ginger Snaps. I don't know if you know that movie. It was kind of a Canadian horror film about werewolves. It was really neat. Yeah, man, and Valve does so well with those like weird free concepts that they do. They're so cool. I don't know. Well, most of you don't have VR, probably not, but the Lab, which is their kind of latest thing, the thing that they released for VR, is amazing. It's so cool. I don't know if I want this to be threatening. This scene to be threatening or not. What's up, Woodwin? Good to see you, buddy. That's awesome, McKelly. Send me the game. I wanna see it. I'm gonna judge you super hard. So yeah, getting back to actually writing. For those of you just turning in, I'm on day 3. Oh yeah, sure, buddy. I'll give you a permit there. Cool. I'll take a look. Seems interesting. I've been trying to do a lot more competitions and stuff like that. I did Game Chef, that 9-day analog game design competition. I've got some awesome feedback from that. I'm trying to do more of that kind of stuff. Maybe some anthologies. Right. What was I saying? So yeah, for those just tuning in, this week I am doing. This week, over the course of this week, I'm drafting the majority of the short story I've been working on stream. This is the first real stream project I've worked on. And I didn't want it to take forever, so I have this week off, so I'm just kind of writing as much as I can of it now, so it's not going to take me 6 months to work on. Basically, it's a classical fantasy. It's very heavily based in Greek mythology. It's got sirens, it's got fauns, it's got crazy made from dragon teeth men, gods, weird things, demon summonings, all the good stuff. Huh. I did not know that. The Twitch writing community has been growing pretty steadily, though. Is it a fantasy epic? No. It's a short story, so by default it can't be epic. Do you think the genre expectations of YA fantasy mean that it also cannot be epic fantasy? No. I think that YA fantasy tends to be a simplified version of epic fantasy. I think it's hard to do a short story epic, simply because your scope is too small. But I could be wrong. Maybe this is an epic. I don't really consider it to be an epic. The journey is too short. Yeah, okay. No, I think YA fantasy tends to be epic fantasy by default. Mostly, well, and this might be me spouting off nonsense, but mostly because I think the modern conception of what a fantasy story is epic fantasy. Right, but like let's think of like prominent YA novels right now. Hunger Games, Divergent, Maze Runner, stuff like that. Those deal heavily with political factions and moving. Yes, they're about character journeys, and I get that. But aren't all stories, or most stories by modern conception, character-driven stories about character journeys? But what if your fantasy world doesn't have dragons, Michele? Does that automatically make it not epic fantasy? I suppose I just argued that the three YA novels that I named are all science fiction and not actually fantasy. So maybe those were poor examples, but I think the content stands. Right. So, and that's kind of what I was getting back at, Michele. Uh, our Lord of the Rings is basically the trope codifier for our version of fantasy nowadays. When we talk about fantasy, we're generally talking about high fantasy, and we're generally talking about an epic. That's not true 100% across the board. And I'm actually a big fan of what we call low fantasy, which is more kind of Conan the Barbarian, sword and sorcery sort of style stuff. A lot grittier, a lot more humanistic. But epic fantasy tends to be kind of our conception. Things like Skyrim and things like Skyrim and like what are other good examples? Kingdoms of Amalur, which is one of my favorite RPGs. Those are all epic high fantasies. All right, cool, Ruben. See you in a bit. Like that tends to be our modern conception. I think of things like Dragonlance, the Finn of Our Tapestry series by Guy Gabriel Kay. I don't know, stuff I like. Brent Weeks. Anything by Brent Weeks. Kings of Amalur is very underrated. I agree. It did so many things so well. And was totally clouded over by a horrible, horrible baseball player who's just kind of an asshole. Ooh, insult. He calls him a goat. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of low fantasy. I like Conan and Solomon Kane. That kind of stuff. I like pulp fiction a lot, and not just the movie, but the kind of the concept of pulp novels. Is Game of Thrones high fantasy? No. Game of Thrones is low fantasy. Game of Thrones is low fantasy. The divider, or what tends to be the divider, is how magic is depicted. Yeah. And anything Dungeons and Dragons tends to be high fantasy. So Forgotten Realms, Eberron, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, it tends to be the depiction of magic. You'll find in low fantasy, magic tends to be sort of this weird gritty thing that's kind of fringe and not generally accepted. Like there's dragons in Game of Thrones, right? But like not everyone is a magic user and is kind of dismissed as this weird hocus pocus nonsense, but still kind of exists. It's also partially the fact that Game of Thrones is based in where's my window here? Mirror. Game of Thrones is based in. Where'd my Twitch go? Game of Thrones is based on the Thousand Years' War? No, the War of the Roses. That's the one. Witcher 3 actually would probably be considered a low fantasy. It's a little borderline, but yes, I would actually probably consider Witcher Witcher in general a low fantasy series. Right, you were telling me about this before, Stevie. Do I consider it high or low? Yours is about reincarnation and stuff, though, right? Like The Witcher is borderline, but it's that's a super interesting definition. Non-rational happenings that are without causality or rationality because they occur in the rational world where such things are not supposed to occur. I would consider your story a high fantasy because it has reincarnation. There can be reincarnation in low fantasy, but for me, because it's such a central theme to your story, or at least that's the way I interpreted it, I could be wrong, it would be a high fantasy. Because it deals with kind of like that gods and magic thing going on behind the scenes. In a lot of ways, low fantasy tends to be more that kind of Lovecraftian, like horror sort of style where you don't understand it. You don't understand the gods. You don't necessarily have contact with them. When you do, they're great bestial beasts. Stuff like that. So yeah. It's weird. So, they don't really have a middle fantasy. There's not really a definition of middle fantasy. The one argument could be that portal fantasy is a style of middle fantasy. It's kind of bridging the gap between a highly rational world with unexplained happenings and a non-rational world with unexplained happenings. Just using the terms that I've kind of been given here. I'm super intrigued by this definition. I've actually read this before, for sure. But just looking at it now. That's super interesting. A alternative secondary world or a real primary world. By this definition, Stevie, your story would probably be... Actually, no, I'm wrong, because it would be a world within a world, I think. Yeah, that makes perfect sense to me. It would be a world within a world, so it would actually be a high fantasy. And that's part of what I mean by the reincarnation. You have this sort of weird magical society that exists within normal society. So yeah. That is a phone. So yeah, that's kind of the way I think about it too. Yeah, you totally should. It's fascinating. So the interesting thing about Conan is Conan can be classed as either. It depends on who you ask. Most people I've talked to define Conan as low fantasy, and sword and sorcery in general as low fantasy. Sword and sorcery being kind of a different term for what Conan is. In a lot of ways, it's a play on sword and sandals. That sort of Greek myth movies of like the 70s and stuff like that. So that's why they call it sword and sorcery. It's a play on that idea. 70s, I think the 60s, 50s and 60s is probably better time period for that. So yeah, Conan is supposed to take place in our world. It has all these made up names and stuff, but like in general, it's kind of like a version of the ancient world for us. A great way to kind of look at it is if you've ever seen The Scorpion King, you could replace the Scorpion King with Conan the Barbarian and it would still work. It's that type of story. Sumeria could be Egypt. It could be... It's a similar world. I mean, when you watch the Conan movies, you see this sort of like Arabic cities and like African pirates and all that kind of stuff, and he kind of comes from like a weird like Slavic nation, things like that. Like that's the kind of world that it's in. It's in a version of our world that can totally be explained. So yeah, Lord of the Rings is really crazy. Lord of the Rings is definitely high fantasy. Almost everyone would consider it a high fantasy by today's standard. But because of its weird, the way that Tolkien sort of based it in real things, it gets really strange. But yeah, because it's all based on like World War II and a lot of things like that. It's based in biblical studies, Icelandic folklore, I think the Rings of Nibelung. Like, it's kind of a thing. Yeah. Just looking over things here. The Green Mile, I could totally see that. Okay, yeah, cool. I couldn't remember what it was. I'm so bad at Icelandic folklore. Like I'm just bad with it. I'm so bad with it. It's something I hadn't considered before, but actually makes a lot of sense now that I'm looking at it here. The modern idea of monster hunters would probably be a low fantasy. Like that makes a lot of sense to me. So, there you go. Yeah, Buffy. Buffy Supernatural. Okay, so it gets weird, right? Because, so here's the weirdness, and this is going to be kind of ridiculously academic, probably more so than it needs to be, but fantasy, science fiction, and horror are actually all offshoots of one singular genre called speculative fiction. They are vastly intertwined because they all have to do with the imagination and variance of our world, of things that don't necessarily exist but might, could in the future, could have in the past. I think speculative fiction is a lot of nerds' jams, for sure. But so here's the thing: is superhero its own genre, or is it part of one of the other genres? I have heard of both of those, though I only know what Bangsian fantasy is because of you. Just so you know. Superhero is magical realism, right? But what is magical realism? Is magical realism its own genre, or is it a subgenre of fantasy? Is horror its own genre, or is it again a subgenre of fantasy? Right? So that's kind of the thing, is when we look at Monster Hunter movies, yeah, well, I agree with that. I think it depends on the context of the horror. I think in a lot of ways Lovecraftian horror is fantasy, but other horrors are not. But see, the problem, Michele, is then if you use horror tropes and horror characters and horror whatever, how do you, where's the distinction? Because vampires are such a thing in fantasy. Werewolves are such a thing in fantasy. You know, like I think of Lovecraft. I think Lovecraft is fantasy. I think it's kind of a version of low fantasy or magical realism, things that we can't understand. A cyberpunk? Really? I wouldn't have guessed that at all. I'm super intrigued by that, but I wouldn't have guessed that at all. I can see the horror elements that. Yeah, and that's the distinction I'm trying to make, Michele, is that I think there's kind of two types of horror. I think there's a type of horror that's based in fantasy, and I think that there's a type of horror that's just horror, that it's its own thing. Like I'm trying to think of good examples. I don't know. Nothing's coming to mind off the top of my head. Because the type of horror that I like tends to be fantasy horror. And things that are generally weird and unexplainable. So the reason I bring that up is that if we're using horror tropes and horror ideas, how we use them matter. So I wouldn't consider Buffy a horror story. It's much more like magical realism or a superhero story, which makes sense if you like. I mean, that's what Joss Whedon does. So I think in a lot of ways this makes perfect sense. It's a non-rational occurrence happening in a rational world. Like, there are real people in Buffy who don't understand the bumps in the nights or what they are. And they explain that, where people just assume that it's one thing even when it's not. Like, teenagers on PCP or whatever. Right? Like, there's it's a thing. But I wouldn't consider them their own little world either. Like, they interact with the regular world on like every hour, every minute. Like, they're part of the bigger version of our world. I think Supernatural is a lot the same way. And I'm curious now. I'm pretty sure they were talking about Supernatural, the show. Well, I suppose Supernatural, the movie, is probably not the same thing. But yeah, I totally think Buffy is a superhero story. I think that's what Joss Whedon kind of does. I think Firefly, to a certain extent, is a superhero story, though it's probably less of one than some of the others. I mean, obviously Avengers and all that stuff. That being said, I mean, The Cabin in the Woods is not a superhero story. But yeah. Yeah, I agree with that too. So then there's kind of the other distinction. I've watched the movie Eragon. I have not seen any. I haven't read the books, unfortunately. That came out when I was in high school. Like I was pretty far past reading sort of more YA novels at that point. I read my first fantasy novel when I was in 3rd grade. Sorry, Michele. I've been working on that bot. He's a little tight. So yeah, what was it? Oh, right. What was I saying? Superhero stories, a lot of people nowadays, or a lot of people that I've talked to lately, have equated superhero stories with science fiction. So I find it super interesting that you've kind of gone the magical realism route. I think it can be both. I think it could be one or the other. I think it depends on the type of story. So yeah. So Dollhouse is a superhero story, yes, but is it a fantasy story or is it a science fiction story? I think it's a science fiction story. Whereas Buffy is more of a fantasy. Though it's debatable because they have all kinds of cool genetic engineering and cyborgs and stuff. So you know, that's a great example. Because Star Wars is a fantasy. It's a space opera, which is basically this science fiction version of an epic fantasy. Yeah, I agree with that too. I agree with that too. All right. It is 1:15, so I'm going to take a quick break. I need to fill up my water bottle. I'll be back in... Michele, he's like, it can be everything it wants to be, okay? Leave it alone. I agree with you. There can definitely be crossover. It's what I'm trying to I guess kind of what I'm trying to say, and this will be the last thing I say before I go on break. What I'm trying to say is that I don't think there's a right answer. I think a lot of it is open to interpretation. But I think there's distinct categories that things can kind of be placed in general, to give an idea of what type of story it is. Knowing your genre is important. Knowing who to market to, it's an important lesson to learn as a writer. In fact, it's in terms of the business of writing, it might be one of the most important lessons. Because there are a lot of niches. There are people who look for specific specific subgenres. People who are into steampunk, cyberpunk, space operas, low fantasy, magical realism. Magical realism has its own crazy community. Most of it is actually in the Spanish writing community. That's where a lot of the magical realism stuff comes from. So yeah, I'm a huge fan of Borges. Jorge Luis Borges is one of my favorite short story writers ever. He's an absolute genius. He writes stories that are so twisty that it's basically a code. Yeah, urban fantasy. Urban fantasy is totally a thing. I have issues with urban fantasy, but I've definitely seen it done well. I know I'm in Discord. It's all good. So yeah. Jorge Luis Borges is a genius. I'm going on break. Think about that. No! That is false, Stevie. That is completely false. That is not the same thing. Star Wars is a space opera. Star Wars is a space opera. But the thing about space opera is basically the science fiction version of a high fantasy epic. And you could replace all of the science in Star Wars with medieval stuff and have the exact same story. You replace the lightsabers with swords. You replace the Force with magic. I mean, it's basically magic anyway. You can replace the ships with boats. You could throw Conan the Barbarian in there, and it would totally make sense. And Star Wars is based very heavily in the hero's journey. The Hero with 1,000 Faces by Joseph Campbell. George Lucas is kind of like the big proponent of what that is. I think about Conan probably way too much. Yeah, Joseph Campbell. I think about Conan probably way too much, and I place him way more places than he needs to be placed. But that's my prerogative, okay? I need to take a break. Stop distracting me. Yeah. So, go out with the last reference. Conan the Barbarian is actually in The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Bam. All right, I'm coming back. Okay, so I wanted to show this to you, Stevie, because this was the example I was thinking of when I was talking about magical realism. I'll blow it up a bit. So here's a general rule of thumb, and I think this is fairly accurate. So if the existing, say there are vampires in New York. If the existence of vampires doesn't shock anyone, but the fact that they're vampires is constantly being pointed out, it's urban fantasy. If a cop's partner is very pale, very strong, generally acts odd, and come to think of it, he's never been seen in daylight, but the story focuses primarily on just a police procedural or the interpersonal relationships, it's maybe magic, maybe mundane. It's more of a mundane fantasy, which is another weird subgenre. If the cop just goes through his life as a cop, but his partner is a vampire whose ID has vampire printed next to his eye color, who's cheerfully greeted by cheerful children in the street who are more fascinated by his shiny badge than by his teeth, and who casually drinks blood in plain sight out of transfusion packs during coffee breaks, it's a case of magical realism. All right, have fun, McKellar. Thanks for hanging out, man. So I guess in a certain sense, superhero stories would probably be more of an urban fantasy. Anita Blake. I've never read Anita Blake, though I am familiar with her as a character. I don't actually know. Is she a book or a comic? Because I know the comics, but... As a book, yeah. I would have thought Anita Blake would be urban fantasy, but don't quote me on that because I'm not super familiar. Yeah, but see, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like if you call him out for being a vampire, then it's kind of more of an urban fantasy. Where he's like, oh, like that vampire is gonna eat you, like that's more of an urban fantasy. I don't see it on this list. That doesn't necessarily mean it is or isn't. But just kind of seeing. I'm not familiar enough with Anita Blake to really comment on that. Right? I'm just going to point out there that this says urban fantasy right there. Yeah, Google says urban fantasy. I would tend to agree with that from what I know, which is, again, very, very limited. I'm familiar with this author, though. I don't know. It's not important. I'm getting distracted again. Cool. Well, I think it's fair to say that our taste is ridiculously similar, so your music probably is my music. Don't Mind probably has a lot more K-pop in it. But yeah. The other thing I wanted to say before I forgot, when I said that that magical realism is Spanish writing, I meant Spanish language writing. It's actually mostly known in Latin America. REM losing my religion. Nice. I don't listen to a ton of REM, but not a bad song. See? I told you, we're the same person. Hyperenor. Take a step forward. I feel like the scene is very, very similar to what I did in the first scene, and I don't know if I like that or not. What does that mean? I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. I'm not. I spent so much time on the internet on places that nobody spends time on the internet that I don't know it. I don't know memes and things. Oh my god, no kidding. Oh, Myers-Briggs. So, interesting. The past Myers-Briggs I've done were the Logician. But I did one recently, and I got a different one. Which very much surprised me. But I think I was just maybe more wishy-washy on my answers, or maybe I've just changed that much as a person. Because you got me all back into it, Stevie. I hate you. No, I don't. I love you. You're awesome. Yeah, I'll skip that. What did I get this time? This time I got the... Yeah, well, I think the Logician is like me to a T. So the fact that I got that a couple times before makes a lot more sense to me. This time I got, I think it was something, it was still an analyst. But I think it was architect maybe? I think I got architect this time versus logician. So I'm like one thing off. But yeah, I definitely think I'm more logician. And I know you're the mediator, right? Am I wrong? Or was it advocate? I'm sorry, I forgot. Yeah, okay. I'm not crazy. Oh my god, it's so hot. I love living in Canada. I do. The thing people don't understand about Canada, and I'm not sure if this is true of Colorado as well, but it could be. I don't know, again, enough about Colorado. But it's like minus 40 in the winter and plus 30 in the summer. And where I live, we don't have snow days. We have ice days where the roads freeze and you can't drive on them because they're literally ice. Freezing rain happens all the time, more so than snow. Yeah. my office is always super hot because of my tech. In the winter, it's great because I can basically heat the entire room and it'll be a nice, comfortable temperature. But in the summer, oh man. It has been especially humid this summer. I don't think this scene should be in the story. I think it's backstory and I think it's unnecessary. Yeah. I'm gonna cut it. I don't think it's necessary. Cut. Done. Moving on. You lean against the walls, plural. You lean against all the walls at the same time. Well, he isn't exactly human, so, you know. He was born of sewn dragon teeth. Yes, this is Scrivener. I love Scrivener. I love Scrivener so much. I don't know what it is, but every writer I've spoken to who's tried Scrivener, and there's been several who I know who have tried it because of me, love it so much. I agree. It has so many unique features that just make it useful. I mean, Wordwin was telling me about a bunch of stuff yesterday that I've started integrating, like this keyword list, where I can literally just pull characters' names into my story. So useful. But the thing I especially like about it, I'm kind of weird because I'm not like as many of those other writers. I actually started using Scrivener because it's really good for comic book scripting. Because of its compiler-like abilities, it makes comics so much better. where I can write a script and it'd be like, I don't have to put page numbers in. I don't have to put panel numbers in. I can move them around into different pages and panels, and when I compile it, it'll always be in the right order. Like, so things like that, character names, certain formatting things, yeah, just awesome for that kind of stuff. And then, yeah, the ability to have multiple scenes in separate documents that are, again, compiled together into a single document when you need them. So you can have that sort of separation where you're not looking at an entire text and not having to deal with 18 files. You can just open one file and work on it, and all your stuff is in there. You can store all your, like, I have all my, like, it's hard to see because I can't really make the menus bigger. I tried for ages. But I got, like, all my prep work, so, like, my log lines and my character bios and names and stuff all on the side here where I'm highlighting. And you can have multiple frames with different information. And you can play around with them. I tend to do them horizontally because I like it that way. I like having my screen split in half. I know Wordwin uses his in the... I like vertical splits so that I can have the two sides. Wordwin does horizontal split to have top and bottom. I don't like that way because my screens are all oriented the other way. Yeah, it does really good auto saving. I use Google Docs when I collaborate. Google Docs is great for that sort of collaboration aspect. And it does fairly well, especially when you integrate it with like Google Drive or something like that, of doing like individual chapters and all that. But in terms of just standalone stuff, Scrivener is excellent. But yeah, I use Google Docs all the time. And then I have a separate software that I'm using right now for screenwriting. Called Shelby, which I really like. It's a free software. I've used Final Draft. Final Draft's really cool, but it's expensive. It's really expensive. And I have an older version, but the newer version is so much better that I don't want to use the older version. But yeah, Shelby's really good. I like it a lot. It's very simple. Huh, that's really cool. Me and Erica were talking about character bios the other day. I found this awesome one that has like almost 400 bio questions. It's amazing. Like, I don't know why you would ever want that many questions, but it's really cool. Are you thinking of Celtex? Because I've used that too. It's pretty good. I just wanted something that wasn't web-based. Yeah. I don't mind web-based software all that much. It just, there are times. Okay, there's quite a few of them. Hey, Question, what's up, man? There's quite a few of them. I've seen a bunch of ones. I've tried a bunch of... So my biggest problem with writing tools is that so many of them are platform limited. There's a lot of iOS support, but not enough Android support for a lot of things. And that comes from a heavy use of the film industry and using Apple products. because they've been using them for a long time. Though that being said, it's all kinds of craziness. Where, Final Cut used to be the program that everyone used. That's not the case anymore. A lot more people use Premiere than Final Cut. And some other stuff. It's a changing industry. But it's really too bad that like Final Draft has an iOS app, but they don't have an Android app. And they claim it's because Android apps or Android devices are not standard. So it's impossible for them to code whitespace properly, which just sounds like a really ridiculous bullshit excuse that they need to recode their program. Oh, nice, man. That's awesome. I haven't looked at it yet. I will, though. I will take a look. I'm going to put a neat little bit of characterization in here. Oh, yes. Good ideas. It's flowing. It's flowing. Huh. Never heard of it, word. What the hell? Huh. Sorry. Apparently some guy named Brendan got arrested in Ottawa today. Yeah. Interesting. So jealous of this character's cool night. open my character profile. 5'6", 170, balding, obese male. Gotcha. We're good. Who wants to name my character? Because I don't feel like it. Why is this not working today? It's so strange. It's really weird. My Windows key isn't working. Okay. He has to be Greek. Yuns. Forbish. I said Greek. Yeah, but did they have Greek names? God, I click on all the things. I forgot that that was there, because honestly, I don't think I've ever used it. I don't think I've ever actually used this. I'd have to spell it differently though. I couldn't spell it like that. You have to spell it in a Greek way. I like Cylon. That's cool. Can't use Hyperion because that's whatever. I was under the impression. Well, I suppose I'm just being facetious because that's how we. I can't use Hyperion because my other character's name is Hyperinor, so that'd be way too much hype for one story. According to Hesios, chaos, chasm, was the first thing to exist. At first, chaos came to be, or was. But next came Gaia, Tartarus, and Eros. Unambiguously born from chaos were Erebus and Nyx. One of these days, I'm eventually going to do that Greek mythology, mecha science fiction, genetic manipulation story I've been working on since I was a kid. Oh, yeah. Well. I don't even want last names. I just want first names. Antigone's. Firion's not bad. That was weird. Don't mind that. Tiganos. Nicholas. That's interesting. I'm sad that no one laughed at my hype joke. Ooh, Halius. I like that. Saba. Meton's a god though, so I don't wanna. This is a lot more in-depth than I thought it would be. I don't think I've ever actually used this. And you probably can't see it at all, for which I apologize again. Menus and all that are tiny. But I can't just look up Greek names. Has to be an actual like list. Oh, I see what. Okay, I see what's going on. I want to look up rich. Anywhere in name meaning. Darius. Done. Darius. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. I'm using bumbled as a verb. Yes. It would be torchlight, right? Yeah. What's a good way to expand my vocabulary, Stevie? I know I have a good one, but I have a tough time with verbs. I'm good with adverbs and I'm good with adjectives. Verbs are my issue. I use very simplified verbs. Something you pointed out to me as well. Yeah, what's a good way to expand my verb vocabulary? Yeah, I never think of them at the time though. of the day. I really miss the word dynamo. Sad that that's not a thing anymore. Not that I did it enough when it was a thing, but I do miss it. Were you here, Stevie, last time when I was talking about readability? Ooh, the word of the day is Vox Populi, the voice of the people. Oh, that's a really awesome list. Oh, this will come in so much handy. I know you can just use Thesaurus, but I don't find that as nice. I like these kind of lists. All right, so I'm just gonna do a quick thing because I think it's important to do in general. No, why are you not working? I'm so sad. So this is Hemingway. Hemingway is one of my verbalists are way better because I know what things mean. I just want a quick list that I can just thing. Yeah. So this is Hemingway. Hemingway is one of my favorite pieces of software I use to supplement my work because it's a readability software. It tracks the readability of writing using its algorithm, which is really cool. And it gives you a really good indicator of kind of where your writing's at and where you want to aim for. Simpler alternative, adverbs, passive voice, stuff like that. Good things. I agree with that. That they is unclear. I think this needs a comma. Not that that makes it less complex, but yeah. I think this should just be sundown, actually. I'm gonna leave that one for now. Hmm. So nice when you cut that scene and then you're working on the next thing and it actually makes sense so you can make progress. Though I'm not going to make nearly as much progress today as I have the last few days. Oh well, such is life. Academic conversations about art. This is exactly what I was talking about. Things that need to happen. Wordwin, if you're still there, is there a way for me to adjust the amount of space from the bottom of the page I have? Because I don't like writing too close to the bottom. It also looks bad on stream. I'll worry about it later. No need to be distracted, B-Row. No need to be distracted. I suppose I could do that. Should just make a real quick new doc. Okay. Interesting. Huh. Interesting. You got me thinking about Conan, Stevie. Now I'm all like, Conan speak. You have come to hire my sword, have you not? You should paint Conan. I fully support this. I fully support this. Which Conan, though? One from your imagination? Schwarzenegger? What's his face? Dragor or whatever? The guy from the new one? Did you like the new Conan? I did. I love the new Conan, but I don't think everyone did. My taste is weird, though. We both know this. What? Stevie. Stevie, no. I want to show you pictures of Conan, but pretty sure that's against Twitch TOS. Too many nips. What's a Conan? Conan the Barbarian. Okay, good. I was like, please, Stevie. He's like an amazingly well muscled piece of man meat. How could you not know who he is? Like, oh my god. I wasn't hot already. I've never seen that movie. Red Sonja is really interesting because Red Sonja has really taken off as a comic book character, especially a Marvel comic book character. So that whole mythos is really strange to me. Okay, stop looking at shirtless men. Move on. It's a keyboard tie. Whatever. My sense of fashion is awesome. Awesome, Johnny. I'm all quiche. I wore that cool Andy Warhol Batman shirt yesterday. Now I got the piano tie. You missed a huge discussion about subgenres of fantasy, which you would have enjoyed. You should watch the VOD later. I hope you enjoy your movie, though. Hey, Erica, what's up? You also missed a crazy awesome discussion of fantasy subgenres, Erica, which you would have enjoyed. I think you would have enjoyed. I might just be egotistical. I enjoyed it. Oh, great. I'm glad you enjoyed it. I'm streaming every day this week from 12 till 3. Which is not my usual schedule. Usually I only stream on Sundays. What was I thinking here? Oh, I'm totally channeling my inner Conan right now. Like it's bad.
so jealous. I am literally sweating. It's so hot. And I can't have fans on because of the mic. Like, it doesn't work. Aren't you streaming tonight, Erica? Yeah, I was gonna say. I told you, Stevie. I warned you of this. But yeah, I do think you were putting a lot of pressure on yourself, which is not good. Shouldn't do that. Also, interesting story. Because you're not releasing anything until the first issue, maybe you shouldn't do it in sequential order. I mean, you'll have to do the rest of them in sequential order, but just saying. Failing should be in every artist's vocabulary, because failure is the first step of learning. This chat is so weird, because, like, delay conversations all over the place. Yep. Oh, I totally did that. It's awesome. I had hella fun with it. Yeah. Loglines are important. Loglines are very important. They're underappreciated in novel writing. Though I think that's changing a lot because of the internet. Yeah. There's some good stuff. I find loglines extremely useful for helping nailing down what I'm trying to do with a story. Yeah. Loglines are from screenwriting, Stevie. That's where they started. Oh yeah, totally. Literary Twitter. Twitter. Both the savior and bane of my existence. so wish. It's so hot. It's so hot. Blah, blah, blah. Tools, writing tools, name generator. Meanings. I'm sad that this didn't keep the previous sizes. Arturian legend names. Cool. Shepherd, I think, is what I'm going for here. Did I spell that wrong? No? No shepherd? Oh, well, I need this. This is... There we go. Is Darius, son of Dolius, a little too alliterative for this? Well, it's Australian winter, right? Split this up. I want to make this 4 separate things. Ancient Greek currency. Alright. Greek currency. Drachma. Yeah, I hear you. I hear your word. It's over 30 degrees here.
Over 30 degrees, 60% humidity. Oh, awesome, Stevie. I'm proud of you. Way to be productive. What the hell? Is this not included in the compile? Is that what's going on? Oh, that's weird. Well, that was certainly odd. Oh, I'm so grateful for you for sending me all these verbs. Like, I'm already seeing a ton of stuff that's really helpful. That sounds good. I think thumbnailing definitely helps. I know a lot of comic book artists actually do that. So would this be would this take place in classical, or would it take place in Hellenistic period? Because I kind of want to establish it in like a time after the Greek myths, like years later, but not quite like modernity. $22 drachma. Could you imagine a world where this should be dialogue? Could you imagine a world where you had to hand machine coins? That's good. That's really good. I know it's not exactly what you wanted, but I think realistically, with your schedule and all that, that's probably really the only way you could do it. I have weird thumbs. They bend all the way backwards. Yes, character description. That thing I never do, but really should. Yeah, I'm bad at description in general. I don't know if you noticed that too much in my in the stuff that you've seen from me. I'm good with really good with mental processes. I'm really good with thematics. I'm really good with creating feelings and emotions. I'm okay at action. I'm not great at it. I'm okay at it, but man, my description is sparse. I'm very light. I don't know. I kind of like that. I kind of like the not having to describe every little bit. Tolkien's kind of turned me off from that kind of thing. You know, there's no need to describe Sam's crazy nightmare for 6 pages about his mad garden plan to overtake Middle-earth. Yeah. Yeah. Is a fortnight 1 week or 2? Or 3 days? Or 4 days? Or something like that? That makes sense. Does that make any sense? Am I crazy? $14 Okay, so I want a fortnight, not 2 fortnights. That makes more sense. Okay. Yeah, I just looked it up too. Welcome back, Erica. Does it make more sense to use hyphens or ellipses for stuttering? Question mark. Of course. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. I think the ellipses is more for like phrases. If you were interrupting phrases. I don't know. Whatever. Yeah. That makes sense. Which would also make sense why phrases would work for that. Yeah. Well, I actually think that's an M dash, but I'll make sure it's a hyphen. It's not at some point. Alright, Stevie. Enjoy yourself. I'll see you at 5. Maybe. No, probably not. Okay, I will. I will. I said I would do it, I'll do it. I'll take a break. I'm feeling better though. You cheered me up. Bye, Stevie. Have a good one. Thanks for coming. I just love this unit of currency. Drachma. It sounds so cool. feel like this is movie dialogue. Let's go terms. Add a child drachma. Cool. Oh look, he's sweating as much as I am. Oh my god, it's so hot. I come from a screenwriting background, and it's really interesting to me that I tend to write prose in a very in a very terse fashion because of that. And I also get a lot of this, like, my instinct is to write these kind of like dialogue, just back and forth, really quick. And I wonder how much of that is a thing. Like, how much of that do other novelists do? Or are they better at inserting description? Or do I not have enough description? Or do I have too much? I don't know. I suppose it's all stylistic choices. Stylistic choices. Okay. Well, I got about 15 minutes left. 13, I guess, is more accurate. Let's see if there's anything I want to add.
This seems too modern, but that's okay. I'll worry about editing later. What's up, Chris? What's going on, man? I'm out of water. Oh well, I'll survive the 10 minutes. Yeah, my keyboard's super loud. There's not much I can do about it without making myself like unhearable. So just kind of gotta deal with it. I hope it's not overly like ridiculous. Like I hope my voice is louder than the keyboard, and that it's not overpowering me. But you know, there's not much I can do about it. Yeah, I use a mechanical keyboard. I much prefer the feel of them compared to non-mechanical keyboards. They're more responsive. They're nicer to use, especially if you use a keyboard a lot, like I do. They are much louder, though. I've been told the newer ones aren't as bad, and I will eventually get a new keyboard. It's just not currently a priority. This one works great. I've had it for many years. I love it. Other than the Windows key, which isn't working today for some reason. But I think that's a thing with my Windows and not with the actual key, because it opens up the start menu properly. Yeah. I have my own office, so I don't worry too much about nighttime typing. But I can understand. I am working on a short story that I started on stream. If you check out accidentalorigin.com or Twitch highlights, you can see the various stages of this story as it's kind of come into being. I'm drafting this week, trying to get as much of it done in the week as I can. Yeah, that's kind of the overall gist. Maybe. That might be something that I would. That's actually something that I wouldn't mind doing. When I was in college, in my stage play class, playwriting class, we did a dramatic reading with actors of our scripts. It might actually be really fun to do something like that live. Bring in a couple friends on Skype or something. Have them read characters. Have a narrator. Let me think about that. Other than that, maybe that's something I could do for YouTube, for my YouTube channel. Who knows? Who knows? It's a good question, though. I don't have answers yet. Yeah, I think it would. I think it'd be interesting. Maybe throw up some like cool photos or something with dialogue in the background. I don't know. I have to think about it. I should ask Stevie about that stuff. She knows a lot more about those kinds of things than I do. Yeah, could be cool. Be a nice kind of follow up to the actual writing process itself. And doing it on YouTube would be nice, because then you could spend some time getting the getting kind of the tone and things down properly. It's interesting. I'm curious now. And I'm a huge fan of Graphic Audio. I don't know if you're familiar with them as a company, but they make audiobooks. But they do whole voice casts, sound effects, background music, really cool stuff. You should all check it out if you're into audiobooks at all. That's cheesy dialogue. Oh well. Okay. So it's 2:59. I've written over 500 words, so I'm pretty happy with that. But yeah, I'm going to close out the session for today. I will be back tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern till 3 p.m. Eastern. Same as all the other days this week. So yeah, going to be doing that. If you have any questions, feel free to check out my website. You can contact me on there or on Twitter right above here. Send me a message, ask questions. If you want to know where I'm going to be, more about the story, you can check out the VODs. Yeah, so other than that, this has been Accidental Origin. My name is Brendan. Take care, guys. Thanks for hanging out.